Is acceptable?
Yep, yep.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is talk about empathy and how does empathy work when you're trying to create a successful business or trying to create a successful product, service, or refine your efficiency in your business. How does empathy play a part in it? It goes more than just using empathy as a nice word to say. There's a design thinking, there's a way of drawing out empathy as a guide to create better decision making into your business that enables growth or connects your product to your customers and so on and so forth. So firstly, what is empathy? Or rather, what is empathy mapping? There's a few definitions that's been floating around, and to be honest, these not all of them are wrong and not all of them are right. There's always a mix of it. Every time you'll go and search, every time you search, you'll probably find a different definition, a different way of doing it. It's because there's so many different ways to get to the same answer, which is around understanding empathy and using empathy for business. So is it a process? It could be, yes, it's a process, but no at the same time as well. What I mean by no, that it is not a linear process, but nevertheless, it is a process to draw out the empathy we want in business. Is it a product? Yes, it is part of a bigger product in the larger design thinking or human-centered design toolbox. Is it a pathway? Yes, it could be a pathway as well. Pathway to getting to know more about your users or your customers or your employees or your stakeholders and so on and so forth. Is it problem solving? Yes, definitely. I 100% agree that it is a way of solving problems for business growth. And lastly, could it be a passing trend? No, I don't believe it's a passing trend. I believe it is, if anything, it's the future way of working, a smarter way of working. So that's just a little bit of understanding around what empathy is, and you probably hear in a lot of different contexts around as well. You'll hear this words, a product, pathway, problem solving, all of these things. It will come up along your journey. The main areas when you get into an empathy map, it is 4 specific areas around this. So one is, what does the person see? What do they think or feel? What do they hear? And what do they say and do? But then when we look at a empathy mapping, let's look at a standard definition that I just went on Google and I pulled out. A very simple definition of what an empathy map is. It is a template or a canvas that you can complete whenever you want to understand more about somebody else. So this somebody else could be your customer, it could be your employees, it could be your stakeholders in your business, it could be the wider C-suite team or whatever. It's just more on who you want to know more about. And how do you use this? So if you guys are in an organization, some of the things that we're going to share today is going to help you to go and implement into your business, onto your organization, or into your workplace. How do you use this? The best way is you ask them. You run an empathy exercise with them is by asking them, so you get the real data, real information. The other way is you make it up in your own mind, which is called assumptions. So assumptions is you take a guess, you take the best calculated guess you think the person is thinking, feeling, doing, or hearing. So looking at some of the reasons some of the clear reasons you can use Empathy Map is if you want to improve your product sales, if you want to improve or increase your business turnover, if you want to increase your staff productivity, if you want to increase your customer retention and your customer base. So these are the few reasons that you can use empathy and it will help you. But before we move forward on how to use it and what are the benefits of it, of our Empathy Map. One thing is very important, which is called having an empathy mindset. An empathy mindset, as our friend Barack Obama. No, he's not. I know he looks very similar to your president, Joko, right? Is that correct? Joko?
Yes, Joko.
Yeah, Jokowi. Yeah, but yeah. So one of the great examples, right? Let's look at learning to empathy from his perspective, learning to stand in somebody else's shoes, to see through their eyes, and that's how peace begins. And it's up to you to make it happen. And empathy is a quality of the character that can change the world. So that's from his perspective. Now we take it into, now let's put into reality on our perspective, a business owner perspective. Empathy can change your business. Empathy can change your team that you work with. Empathy can change how your customers react to your product. So these we've taken that and we've moved it into a business concept around it. His one is he wanted to change the world. He believes that empathy can change the world. And I'm a believer that empathy can exponentially change business outcomes. So before we get into the tools and how we do it, an example and benefits, I want you guys to think about is what is the mindset required in order to carry out an empathy exercise. Because I've seen many people, they rush into empathy or empathy mapping, or when it comes to product launch, empathizing with customer. And if you're not in the right mindset, it could derail your whole data information that you get. And then at the end of the case, you find out that you're not getting the results that you're expecting is because we weren't in the right mindset. And what I mean by being in the right mindset is you could let your own biases or your own thoughts creep in to think that that is what we want, or that's what the customer wants anyway. So just trying to see this here. So the journey of wanting to create a better product or to increase turnover or increase customer engagement or numbers start with empathy. And empathy mapping, see, this is the other thing when it comes to mindset, we need to be clear. Empathy mapping itself is just the beginning of it. It's not one of those things that if I'm putting a product out there and all I have to do is empathy mapping. Empathy mapping flushes out insights that feeds onto your product design, your product marketing, your product branding, your product language, and so on and so forth to align itself to your customers. So let's see, when do we need to use empathy? So these are three things that I found, and there's many other, but then three things that I thought was quite relevant is to when to use empathy mapping is if you're wanting to launch a product or service that truly connects with its users. Another reason to use empathy mapping is you wanting your customers to choose your business over your competition. Another way you can use empathy, and this last one is facing inwards. If you want to increase productivity and efficiency in your business operations, and this is the example I'm gonna share with you guys later on, is how to use empathy but facing inwards into your own organization to make it work. So let me talk a little bit deeper onto each one of them. So when it comes to products, we all, as business organizations, as people that are sitting in leadership role or working in an organization where you are responsible for a product to get out in the market, we all want our product or service to do really well. And you see many businesses get very excited about the product's benefits and features, but what they fail to see is, how do we align the product's features and benefits to the needs and wants of the users? And this is where empathy will flesh that out. And then that is the starting point where I've got a product, these are the features and benefits. Or am I building the right product that aligns with the needs and wants of the customers that I want to connect with? If we don't do this, then the whole exercise can be wasted, and you can waste resources, time, and obviously the product getting out in the market, because we haven't really understood what is the needs and wants of the customer. How does it work when we wanting our customers to choose our business over our competition? What I believe in this current time, with the rise of technology, a customer can find an alternative to your product or your service in a matter of minutes, and then they can take their business somewhere. They can spend their money somewhere with your competition. And this is why understanding your customer and providing a service or an offering is that much more important, where we can understand what is they really wanting to stop them from going to our competition. And the last one we looked at is wanting to increase productivity in your business. So by understanding employees and stakeholders, you can dramatically increase your own productivity and efficiency in your business. And later on, we're going to show you, or I will show you the example of how exactly one of our clients did that, or how we helped our client do that. Sorry, I'm just getting a little bit thirsty here. Is everything all good, Aroha?
Yeah, all good.
Let me know if I'm going too fast, too slow, or if you can't hear me.
Okay, all good.
All right, cool. Okay. So now let's look at really what an empathy map looks like. And you guys, I think what I will do, Aroha, is I'll send people that are interested in it, I can send some information to them later on around this presentation, around this webinar, so they can have this and they can base things around this for later on.
Yeah.
So very easily, if you're looking at, that old saying that goes, or maybe a new saying, I don't know how old it says that, a business that understands the customer is a business that wins. And this is the fundamental flaw that people do, is most people think that their customers or their prospect are just like them or think like them, but that's actually not true. Every customer, every individual, they have their own wants, desires, and pain points. And and which might be different from ours. So we need to really understand it to get to the end result of creating something that is really truly valuable for them. And this is where you see products like Gojek, Shopify, Shopee, and Traveloka, and all of them. They're excelling at an exponential rate because of this, because they truly spend time in understanding their customer. So if we look at the board here, and if we go on, what does the customer think and feel? You think about, okay, what does it really, sometimes what they think and feel and what they say might be different because of certain things, cultural differences, and so on and so forth. They might not say. So it's always best to overlay what they say. Okay, I think like this, but I feel I'm saying this. I don't want to say this. So understanding this, think and feel is very important. Then you say, when you're doing, like, if you've got your persona customer, like, what does her environment or his environment look like? You ask them, do they travel to work? Do they see traffic around their home? Do they see clutter, mess? Do they see chaos around them? Or do they see something that is really organized? Do they see everything is making really good sense? So what do they see? It's really important to understand that. And what do they hear from their friends, their boss, their influencers? So if they're working from people, what do they hear from their boss? Are their boss always nagging at them? Are their friends always, they hear of the latest technology? They hear that their friends are excelling in life, getting better things, and so on and so forth. So if you see this part here, you see there's a line. At the bottom, there's a pain and a gain. This is where you draw insights, the pain and the gain, that information itself helps you to make decision of how you design your product, or how you design your service offering, or how you make changes in your business to create, to take away the pain and to amplify the gain. So it will make sense once we move to the next stage. So for now, what you need to understand is the top part. You need to say, if you are interviewing your customer or your user, just get the information. Don't be judgmental. Don't say to them, do you feel this way? The correct way of asking would be, how do you feel about this? Rather than, so for example, a suggestive question would be, isn't it annoying when it rains? So you're putting a thought in their mind that rain is annoying, and they'll answer in that way. But another way, the true way of asking the question is, how does it make you feel when it rains? Yes.
Do you want to pick out somebody, Ran, to give an example, maybe?
Sorry?
Do you want somebody to like give an example? Like, for example, you interviewing one specific business here?
I'm going to get onto that later.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to go through an example, and then maybe when the Q&A starts, we can do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's how we're going to move forward. What I want to do is, I'm conscious of the time as well, and I'm taking value of you guys' time as well. So next step is, I want to use an example that we did with one of our customers, and then they had this issue around it. Can you guys still see it?
Yes.
Okay. So when setting up an empathy mapping, three things you gotta put together is a scene, a problem, and a technique. So scene is, where is this challenge happening? So in this case, it was a very famous, very well-known shoe manufacturing factory. And you got to identify what is the problem. See, the thing with empathy is we need to have a specific problem because we can't solve all of the problems all of the time. We need to try and solve a few problems and do it really well and then move on to the next problem, rather than having a very wide problem that might have very wide challenges or issues around it. And specifically around the scene, you have to see who the user is. In this case, was the factory workers. And the techniques what we used to gain insights and to run the business empathy mapping was observation, interviews, and deep listening. There are other ways. These are more qualitative. These quantitative data you can get as well, but that sort of slides more onto persona creation and getting big data around that. So this one, the problem was high rate of error in products, and there was a high staff turnover, and the people that were working were distracted. Sorry. So these are the challenges that we were faced with, and this is the problem that we wanted to solve. And what we did around there, okay, if this is a problem, so obviously the clientele, there were subsequent issues around it. It was training staff took too long. Error in products meant that there were so many returns, which meant turnover was low, and the net profit kept suffering because they had to redo stuff over and over again, and staff were not performing. Okay. So after we did the interviews, the observation, and deep listening, this is what I found. And this is where I'm going to explain to you how things work. So though the problem was that there was a high error rate, staff turnover, and distracted staff, when you start running an empathy, we need to sort of really have that awareness, but let not that play a part or create a biases in the information you're trying to draw out. The exercise of empathy mapping is to just draw out information, and the pure the information can be, the better we can create results and change follow through. But if we go in with a solution in mind already, then we might not be able to collate real data or data that is really useful. So in this case, whilst interviewing people, the staff, it was asked, okay, how do you feel? And what are you thinking? So the people were saying that they felt worried about their kids. They felt, they were thinking that they're frustrated at work, and they felt they were tired. Then we went on to say, and we say, what do you see around? If the think and feel is what you see, worried about the kids, and you can see, they said, what they saw was unhappy families. So it's got nothing to do with work. It's outside of work, and this is where a real empathy works. It's not confined to just the work. But they went on to say, we see unhappy families. They do see solutions as well. So it's not always negative. It could be positive things in there as well. And what they also saw was their colleagues were frustrated as well. And what did they hear? If you see on the other side, what did they hear? They heard criticism for their errors, and they heard complaining families and complaining colleagues. So this is what they hear. This is what they are surrounded by. This is the noise or the language and the hearing that is always bombarding them. And then you go and you go, okay, what did they say and do? So, it's a collation of it. It's not everyone, but we mixed it up. Okay. They feel that they can't speak up, and that itself, it could be a sign of authoritarian organization where it just flows from the top and you're not allowed to speak up. They felt trapped and powerless, and this could be because they have the education background is not great. They don't have many options to go and find jobs somewhere else. What they said is they were becoming more and more stressed. So now this is hindsight, right? This is the information that we get. And now if we sort of look back on it, okay, what do we see around here? Then you jump into the pain and the gain. The pain is, for this person, was that she needs the job. That's one of the pains. And the other thing is she can't fix issues. Right? And the other pain is that there's complaining colleagues all the time. Everywhere you hear is people complaining. And the gain part is where you say, okay, if everything could be fixed, what would that look like for that person? And the collective thought, we found that there's a lot of people that said, man, we would just want our kids to be safe in school. We want to feel like we're part of a team. We want to be part of a team. And we want to work in a place that is a happy environment. So it might seem like, when you drill down on it, these were the things they were wanting. So this is empathy mapping around here. So what I want to sort of, some of the key points of this is this information, and I'm going to share the results and what was done and the results after that. But it's very important to really understand that empathy mapping is just the beginning of it. So what comes after empathy mapping is probably creating a detailed persona, which is followed by a customer journey mapping. And then it leads to product or service design thinking. So as you can see how it's all interlinked, that leads to the product or service design towards the end. We can't just jump from, okay, I know this information. This is the information I know. How do I use this to make things better? How to create products better? How to manage my team better? How to create better management, and so on and so forth. So at this point, what I want to do is possibly a shameless plug of what ThinkersX is. I think this is the right time before we get to the final part where I share the outcomes and what was done and what were the changes and so on and other things. So at ThinkersX, we regularly take customers through this journey. We help them achieve exponential business growth through design work. How we work is we start with first understanding what their challenges are. And then from there, we work towards designing a change mindset for innovation. And then we use tools such as this and other CX journey mapping, design sprints, and Lego Serious Play and things like that to as a way to ideate, validate, and execute solutions for it. So if any of you guys are interested, feel free to get in touch with it. Just even if you want to talk about anything, any ideas want to bounce around, feel free to get in touch with us. Just Google Thinkers X, you'll find us somewhere. Okay, so last thing I want to sort of get into. This is starting to play out. Okay, so after we did the empathy mapping, we didn't magically come up with this. There was ideation. There's two ways of doing this. After this, you can run a quick design sprint, or you can run a design thinking exercise to come up with possible solutions and testing it and implementing it. And after doing all of that, there was a set of things that was implemented. Things like 5.5 day working, reconfigure the factory layout to make it easier for movement. There was staff uniforms to enable them, they feel like a part of a team. There was creche, which is like a daycare before and after school. There was school transport as well. In trial, there was breakfast, lunch, and dinner provided for shift workers, so they feel better, feel happier. They don't. If you see, one of the main concerns was they were worried about the school kids, kids at school or out of travel. So school bus was there, and then picking them up and dropping them off around the vicinity. So that took that worry away. Staff uniform made them feel like a team. Configuring the factory layout made it a nicer place to work. And after a while, if you see, the outcomes was increased efficiency, lower error rate, reduced staff turnover, reduced absentees, and they went forward and became one of the preferred employers around there. So there was people waiting to work there because the word spread. One of the things, the reason why this happens is because people take time to really understand what the challenge is, and not so much around like let's quickly jump into solution mode and fix it. Yes, you're going to fix it, but what it is actually doing is shifting the problem somewhere else, and you're going to it's going to pop up again in a different form, and then you try and fix that, and it's going to pop up again somewhere else. So it's like putting out fires. So it's more on, let's slow down, let's work on this so we can go further around it. That was a brief presentation. I tried to do as much as I can within an hour, but it's time for you guys to play. I've used design thinking as a serious design thinking because we believe empathy is part of the larger toolbox of design thinking. Go ahead and just test it and play with it. It's not something that you can break. It's not a single way of doing it. It's not a linear method. There's always flexibility around it. So whichever way you move forward, whichever way you feel comfortable with, don't try to make it too fancy. Make it simple. What is the scene? What is the problem? And how we're going to do this? How we're going to execute it? That's the way to do it. So I'm going to stop sharing, and then we're going to jump on to the next one.